there, folks. Welcome to the channel. I'm glad you could make it because in today's episode, we're going to be firing up the number 6 convection smoker from Smokin' It Smoker. This is the largest smoker that they have. It's new to their line. It's their commercial line, and we've been basically testing it for the last year and a half, 2 years, just to make sure that all the kinks, all the bugs have been worked out, and I feel like we're pretty close. The last time we put meat in the smoker ended in disaster. If you're new and you didn't see that particular video, check it out right here. We basically had 150 pounds of sausage on Dewey, Texas bowl of chili. We had the Polish kielbasa, and everything was going great. Until the very end of that cook. I mean, the entire thing caught fire, smoked out. Thankfully, it wasn't a complete loss. We were able to salvage most of those sausages, and since then, we've made a couple changes to keep that from happening again. Number one, the smoker needed to be on level ground. When we originally put all that sausage in there, it was a little tilted to the back. Some of that rendered fat kind of pulled towards the back of the smoker, and when the burner got really hot and drippage and all that crazy stuff, it ignited. That's what caused the grease fire. So now the smoker is on level ground. Secondly, we had to figure out why we had such inconsistent temperatures throughout our cook. The Smokin' It Smoker is known for being accurate to within a degree of whatever you set it, and in this particular case, we had these massive heat swings. Well, come to find out that the P, I, and D settings for this particular controller were way off. It's like they were undervalued. And so we did make a video about this, but basically I put the machine in auto tune, let the algorithm figure out the appropriate P, I, and D settings for the size smoker that we had, and then we adjusted all those settings. When we did our initial cook in the smoker, we had 150 pounds of sausage. We did not have hanging bars at the time, and so they were all on racks. And I did feel that 150 pounds might be a little too much, at least on the racks, for this particular smoker. The other thing that I noticed was that the very bottom row cooked incredibly quick. And so I felt like it might have been a little too close to the heating element. So in today's cook, we're gonna give that bottom row a little more space. We are gonna be doing pork shoulder. All right, so with that being said, let's get some pork shoulder made up and give it a cook.
All right, let me show you what we're working with. I'm going to get this out of the way because today we are going to be making that pulled pork. I've got 18 deboned pork shoulders. They weigh a little less than 8 pounds a piece. So that's going to be a total of 140 pounds of pork shoulder in the number 6 Smokin' It Smoker. We're going to see how much we can stuff into this smoker and then, of course, see how well it cooks. So let me kind of take you through the process. First thing I like to do is give it a good injection. I've been playing with this new injector from the sausage maker. Absolutely love it. You just dial in how much you want each pump to deliver. And the marinade I'm using is pretty standard, nothing special. I've got some brown sugar, apple juice, some water, maybe a little vinegar. I've got salt, pepper, onion powder, garlic powder, oregano. Anyway, we're now going to do what my papa used to tell me every time I got hurt as a kid. We're going to suck it up. This injector is a million times easier than the classic syringe injector. Anyway, I'll put a link in the description box below if you want information. But as you can see here, quick pull of the trigger, and it delivers a very precise amount of marinade each time. All right, now that we've got those properly injected, let's add a binder. We're using mustard. You could use olive oil if you want. Here's our spice rub, and you can literally put whatever you want. We've got salt, brown sugar, pepper, smoked paprika, onion powder, garlic powder, some herbs, a touch of cayenne pepper. And at this stage, like I said earlier, you can add whatever you want. Like, make it yours, you know? I like a combination of flavors. I do like that additional sugar element as it helps form a beautiful bark through the cooking process. And all I'm going to do is just make sure that everything is nice and coated. For this particular cook, I am going to let these pork shoulders rest in the refrigerator overnight. That's going to let those seasonings soak in a little bit better, flavor the meat a little bit better, and that's what I'm looking for. But that's basically it. You don't technically have to do that. You can pop these in your smoker as is. It's now the next day, and we need to set up our smoker. So first thing I need to consider is rack placement. Notice I've got my exhaust vent for the convection right there at the top, and I just want to make sure that nothing blocks that vent right there. So I am going to place these probably every other rack and just kind of see what kind of spacing I'm looking at after it's all said and done. Our goal is to put all 140 pounds into the smoker, and I am going to give that bottom rack a little more space than we did the first time. Being that I don't want to burn up 140 pounds of pork shoulder, we are going to put temperature probes at the top, the middle, and the bottom, the front, and the back, and just see what's happening while it cooks. Let's get these shoulders into the smoker, and then we'll get it fired up. right, this looks great. We've got 4 shoulders per rack, holding up nicely. And I've got temperature probes, like I said earlier, kind of all over the place. I could have actually put 2 more at the very bottom, getting us closer to about 160 pounds, but that's okay. Let's fire this baby up. I am going to turn the convection system on, and we're going to cut the fan to about 50%. That's kind of where I like to hover. There we go. We did get a new control board, which added Wi-Fi to the system. Absolutely amazing. So let's get that up, and let me show you how we're going to program this. Our first step in this cook is going to be at 190 degrees for 3 hours. After 3 hours, the unit's going to automatically increase to 225, and it's going to hang out at 225 until we get to an internal temperature of 196 degrees Fahrenheit. And then at that point, we could check it, see if we need to add more time or anything like that. And so 3 hours have passed. We're at 225. Notice that my target temperature and my set temperature are exactly the same. Absolutely beautiful. When I look at all my probes, there is some slight variation depending on, where the probe is located. Right here, you're noticing 142 and 145. Those are directly in the middle of the smoker. This 151 and 154, those are probably second to the bottom, and then the 163 and the 160, that's the very bottom. And so the very bottom of the smoker is cooking a little bit faster, and they may have a lot to do with airflow. We'll know a little bit more once we get through this stall. So I'm going to let these cook a little bit longer and then go ahead and begin the process of just wrapping all these shoulders up. And nothing special here. We're just going to take some butcher's paper. I am going to give them a little douse of some rendered fat mixed with some spices. And I'm loving the bark on these things. I mean, this is absolutely gorgeous. Nice tight wrap, and back into the smoker it goes. 18 pork shoulders later, this is what it looks like. So we're going to let this continue to cook. Now, right now, they're all at different temperatures, and we'll look at the probes here in just a second. And honestly, I thought that the convection system would overcome the stall, but it did not. They kind of hovered at that 160, 170 range, at least the ones that were there. And so wrapping them, in this case, was necessary. Maybe if we had less in there, we wouldn't have to. But as you can see right here, those very bottom 2 rows, so those bottom 6 shoulders are definitely cooking faster when we look at the gauges. Top and the middle section are taking a second to catch up. The very bottom row is at 200 and 202, so that's just about finished. We're normally targeting between 200 203. We'll give it a probe check here in a minute. And then that second to last row, 166 and then 175 towards the back. And so, yeah, we're definitely cooking hot towards the bottom of the smoker. The top of the smoker seems to be pretty average, 150, 145, somewhere in that range, and it's very quickly catching up because everything is wrapped tightly. It's been about 13 hours, and the first round of pork shoulders are done. So that's going to be these 2 here at the bottom. Both of those are at about 203, one's at 202, and they are buttery soft. I started these about 5 o'clock yesterday afternoon, and it is 6 a.m. right now. We got a long day ahead of us, as these pork shoulders are going to come out a little at a time. And it's okay, because check this out. With our tongs, we're just going to move that meat around, and this is incredible. Cooked perfectly. Great bark, beautiful aroma, nice and smoky, very, very tender. Pulls apart with no problem, and just glistening with this rendered fat right in the middle of it. Ultra juicy. Let's go ahead and finish breaking this up, and I'll give you my thoughts on the smoker.
Round number 2 in the number 6 Smokin' It Smoker, huge success. We had no problems with the temperatures on this cook, unlike cook number 1. And that's because the P, I, and D values were set accordingly to the size of the smoker. So the targets were hit, they were within about a degree of each other, and we certainly lost those wild temperature swings. As far as the rendered fat on the bottom, no issues there as well. Being that we were on level ground, there's a natural slope to the front, and every bit of it drained out perfectly. So 140 pounds of pork shoulder later, and don't get me wrong, it turned out beautifully. It was juicy, tender, it was smoky. I do think it was a little too much for this particular smoker because I think we could have benefited from a little more airflow. Now, the only reason I'm saying that is because towards the end of the cook, I did have to babysit the temperatures of the bottom row. Remember, we had probes throughout the entire thing because the bottom row did cook a little bit faster than everything else. And I do think that maybe instead of putting 4 shoulders per rack, we were to put only, let's say, 2 or 3, we would get better heat distribution, better airflow, and it would cook more evenly. Now, with that being said, if you don't mind babysitting your smoker and you put temperature probes at the top, middle, and the bottom, you can 100% load this smoker down 140, 150 pounds of meat, and it'll cook beautifully. You just kind of have to manage the temperatures because the bottom will more than likely cook faster than everything else, and you'll just have to pull it as it's done. We ended up turning most of that pork shoulder into absolutely incredible pulled pork. I did freeze dry a whole bunch of it for long-term food storage. So if you're into freeze drying and MREs and things like that, you're definitely going to want to hit that subscribe button so you can catch the video on us freeze drying that pork shoulder and then how it turned out in the end. In our next cook with the number 6 convection smoker, we're more than likely going to be doing more sausage, probably on Dewey. We use it for everything. And we'll reduce the quantity this time to maybe 110, maybe 100 pounds of sausage. With all the changes being made, I'm really looking forward to seeing how it cooks that sausage. I think it's going to be absolutely brilliant. For those of you who have been here a while, you know that I primarily use the Smokin' It digital smokers to smoke and cook sausages because you can dial it in and your sausage just turns out incredible every time. And so based off of today's results, I think the smoker's working beautifully. Thankfully, we were able to fix the issues with just a couple minor changes through the settings. But as far as how it cooks, I think the only thing that's left to figure out is load capacity. If you overload your smoker, like we've been doing, then it doesn't cook evenly. And so we're just trying to figure out what's the absolute maximum that you can put in there. And obviously we're starting on the high end and working our way down, but we'll certainly get there. I'm looking forward to the next sausage cook. Join me on this journey by hitting that subscribe button and that notification bell. And if you like this video or got something out of it, be sure to give it a thumbs up. If you want information on the Smokin' It line of convection smokers, they've got a size for everyone. I'm going to put a link to their website in the description box below. Check out their website or give them a call. Steve is happy to answer any of your questions and help you out in whatever way you need. Thanks a lot for watching this video. We'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.